Hello everyone, Russ of Aquariumex here. Sorry about the timing of that airplane. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about that, but I see that Frank the Tank is here. Oh, all hail Queen Pissy, Basement Pets. Cool. Nice to see you in here. Nice to see we've already got some likes. I thought today I'd start out by showing some hand sanitizer in the background. Yeah, no. I thought I'd actually show you my Spanish Porcellio isopods specifically, and some other things too. I mean, that's not the only thing we're going to look at, but it's kind of fun to have a theme sometimes. Hello, Blast Cat. Welcome. I'm going to get my reading glasses here in just a second so I can see the chat a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. Okay. So, Spicy Beans, the anonymous toucan. Hello and welcome. Now, David J, greetings and welcome. This is a really prolific species. Oh, Sean Meister, nice to see you in a live stream. And Gemma, welcome back. This is Porcellio ornatus yellow dot. It's a very, very prolific species among the Spanish Porcellio. They get pretty big. You can see some of them near my thumb are fairly large. I mean, they're not the biggest, but they get pretty big. They're kind of a long, thin isopod, and they're really, really cool. They breed very, very well. They're one of the most hardy of the Spanish Porcellio, I'd say. And this one looks like he wants to nibble on my fingers, which they will do. It doesn't hurt or anything, but they do it. You can see I've got individuals of all different sizes. Little young ones. Not exactly Munkai anymore, because this is a funny thing I learned about Munkai reading Oren's book, Isopod Zoology. It's pretty interesting. I always wondered why the term for very, very young isopods was Manca, the singular, a Mankai or monkey or however you want to pronounce it, for the plural. Wondered about that. Partly because I speak Italian, and in Italian the word manca roughly translates as it is missing. Well, the cool thing is, when they're the first instar, when they're very, they just leave the brood pouch, essentially, they're missing one of the thoracic segments. They normally have 7, but that first instar only has 6, and so manca means it's missing the thoracic segment. That's where it comes from. So that was really interesting to me. I just learned that, and thought it was kind of fascinating. So manca actually relates to idea of something missing. Basement Pets. You got Porcellio Hoffmannseggi a few days ago from Supreme Gecko. Awesome! It's a great place to get him. Wally knows what he's doing. He has great isopods. In fact, that's where I got these guys from him. From these Porcellio ornatus came from Wally, Supreme Gecko. Yeah, Porcellio Hoffmannseggi are very, very cool. Thorapods, welcome. Yeah, P. Hoffmannseggi is a really good one. It's also fairly hardy as far as the large Spanish Porcellio goes. That was my first species I ever kept, actually. Angela, Bowden, welcome. And the anonymous toucan, sorry I can't stay long, but thanks for coming in. And the cabbage, I love it. And Frank the Tank, yeah, once the 7th thoracic segment appears, it's not technically a manca anymore, I guess, because it's actually got one. So the term, though it's widely applied to smaller juvenile instars of various sizes, apparently it's most technically only should be applicable to that first one. And Critters and More, welcome. Toilet Pete, oh, you found 3 Munkai, hopefully more in your A. Werner Eye Orange colony. Awesome, that's a cool looking morph. I love that. Yeah, and that's a good point. Arthropod ambassadors, they're more affordable now. They've gone down a little bit in price. I think I paid $100 for my starter colony. You can get them a lot cheaper than that now, for sure. It was a while ago when I got mine. Yeah, but one thing I'd like to point out about Porcellio ornatus, look how active they are with the light on. I mean, the light's shining straight on them and they're still very active. A lot of the isopods in general will just hide as soon as they can, scamper for a dark spot as soon as this happens. But these guys, on the other hand, really just kind of like to dig in and eat if there's food, and we'll just run around if there's not. It's kind of fun. I'm going to put a little bit of fish food down here and see if we can get them some eating a feeding response going on right now, and I bet we can, because as soon as they smell that food, look how long that took. We got a juvenile at that food already, and as soon as somebody else smells it, they're going to go after it. So, cool. Let's see. And thank you, Frank the Tank. I appreciate that. So, Angela, oh, you got a centipede. Your family's not too happy about it. I know the feeling. That was the kind of how it was when we first got our centipede. My son and I were pretty cool about it. I think my daughters were okay. My wife was not too pleased. I mean, she agreed to it, but she wasn't all that happy about it. Oh, that's cool, Anonymous Toucan. It turned into a beetle. And Arthropod Ambassadors, they do have a high yellow morph, and I'll be showing you a high yellow morph for these guys really soon. And Frank the Tank, I'm with you. Scolopendra, very cool. The only species I can collect in my state is Scolopendra polymorpha, but I love it. Had one individual for quite a long time. Actually, I had two for quite a while. But one I had for like 4 years and loved it. But it eventually passed on. Mickey M, hello, welcome. Nice to see you here. And Dexter, glad to hear it. They're already formed an advanced society. Cool. Have they developed written language yet? That's my question. I'd love to know about that. Kermit the Hermit Crab in the house. Nice to see you here. Crystal as well. Hello. Tarantula Bee. Hello. Thank you so much. Peter might have a few for sale. Cool. It's worth a check. Definitely. This is, what size bin is this? I think this is a 16. Let me just check. I've got it on the side still. 16 quart bin. So, spicy beans. Oh, Albatross Gaming, Desert Mantis, awesome, like the one Peter showed in his video recently, Bugs in Cyberspace. That was such a cool Desert Mantis, the Egyptian Desert Mantis. If you haven't checked out that video that Peter released, I think it was on Friday. So cool, check it out. Yes, you should get millipedes. Of course, you probably shouldn't keep them together because I can't think of any millipede that would be happy at the temperatures that a Desert Mantis would be at. Humidity and other concerns as well, but just the first thing that hits me is temperature. He was saying the Desert Mantis likes it north of 85 degrees, I believe, were his words. And I don't think there are any millipedes that are super happy at that temperature. Not to mention the fact that the humidity would be an issue. Arthropod Ambassadors. Scolopendra polymorpha coming. Yeah, I think they are pretty good for beginners because their venom's not too bad. I mean, you don't want to get bitten, but it's not too bad. And they can be really active. Some are more active than others. Some have a more developed prey drive than others. Some are more likely to hide than others. Angela, great question. When has it been too small and does it matter? It does matter. You can keep several hundred isopods of most species. I wouldn't keep giant Spanish Porcellio, hundreds of them in a 6-quart bin, but like most Armadillidium, most of the smaller Porcellio species, and of course the dwarfs, I wouldn't hesitate to keep them, hundreds of them in a 6-quart bin. But the giant Spanish Porcellio need a little more space, and then when you've got so many that you throw handfuls of leaves in there and they're gone the next day, I mean, you probably should upgrade. And things like dairy cows will outgrow a small bin pretty fast too. So anything that's super prolific, basically you want to make sure that you see, you've got to have some leaf litter in there and you've got to have some moss in there. And if you notice it depleting too soon, like really, really quickly, then you probably ought to upgrade. That is my feeling on it. Let's see. That's kind of a simplified way to look at it, I guess, but I think it's fairly accurate way to put it. Okay, I'm going to put these Porcellio ornatus away. So, because I want to show the high yellows. These were from Jordan. I did an unboxing of these a while ago. Probably had them for 3 or 4 weeks before I did the unboxing, before I released it. Not before I did it, but before I posted it is what I mean. And I actually had a little die-off yesterday. I looked in here and I had a couple of these that were dead, which really upset me because I love these guys. But I think they're doing okay now. I changed a few things. Check those out. They're just fantastic. They haven't started breeding yet. This species usually breeds when they're about full size. Well, I haven't seen Monca yet, There are a ton of springtails in the moss, but I think they'll be fine. They're beautiful. I actually love them. I think they're one of the most visually striking giant Spanish Porcellio isopods. This morph comes in actually two submorph. There's a chocolate and there's just the normal high yellow. And I think there are actually others too. There's like a high yellow and a high yellow, and there's chocolate high yellow and lots of stuff. But anyway, I love it. Sorry that they're hiding so well right now, but they're absolutely gorgeous. Love these. Thank you again, Jordan. I don't know if there are any under here right now. Nope. But I'm hoping that they will be breeding soon. And this enclosure, I think I saw someone make a comment about this enclosure. Yeah, I love it. It's a great enclosure. This is from Isoviva. And let's see. How long did it take for Porcellio to breed for you? Totally depends on the species and the size you get them at, and just, I think the setup can have a big impact on that, because like when I got my Porcellio Hoffmannsegge, I don't remember how long it took, but I think it was a few months before they were breeding. Probably, yeah, a good long time. Also, different species breed at different rates, but in the Porcellio, did I mention that? For example, Porcellio ornatus is one of the faster ones, but they're one of the more prolific ones, but they usually need to be near adult size. Some of the others will breed at much smaller proportions of their adult size, but may not produce as many broods per year, things like that, or the broods may not be as big, things like that. So, for example, my Porcellio expensis were the fastest giant Porcellio species I ever had. I mean, they bred crazy fast. They started producing monkey almost immediately, like within weeks, a couple of weeks. So, okay. I'm not going to be able to catch all the chat, but I'm going to just do what I can. So Angela, I use moss leaves and a substrate like soil. I have a soil like substrate made out of organic compost, decomposed wood, and crushed leaves. That's basically what I use. So I put an inch or two of that in along with the leaves and things like that. So, are there any fruits or vegetables you shouldn't feed to isopods? Good question. I've fed most of them. I just try to avoid things that I know may have been contaminated with pesticides a lot, or peel them really well, or things like that. But I don't know that there's anything that I would completely avoid from a type of fruit or anything. Let's see if there are any. Oh, there's some Porcellio magnificus. Oh, I just dropped one. There's one though, hiding in the little corner of moss. Looks like a young male Porcellio magnificus. These are pretty awesome. This one's really pretty tiny still. I mean, they get much bigger than this. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Just trying to catch some things. Okay, catching up. Yeah, Frank the Tank, I love how you can just look at the isopods without having to mess with the tub. I love the idea of display isopod enclosures. Oh, here's some more magnificus. There's one molting. You can see on the left there. Pretty cool. Sorry, I didn't notice the spamming until it was a little too late, because I can't always keep up with the chat when I'm looking at other things, but I did catch it. So, eventually. Clown isopods coming, Crystal. Awesome. I love those species. So, Porcellio, I have a hard time figuring out, honestly, about whether or not they need more protein. I feel like some of them, yes. Like Porcellio expansus apparently is a heavy protein feeder and doesn't really eat all that many leaves. I feel like Porcellio Hoffmannsegge just doesn't really have much of an appetite. And I think that's true of Porcellio magnificus compared to a lot of other isopods too. So that's what I would say. So it probably depends on species. Porcellio ornatus, definitely protein hungry isopods. When I have a pinky from feeding my snakes that none of the snakes want, whatever, I have an extra pinky, I throw it in either with my dairy cows or Porcellio ornatus, and they will eat it really fast. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to catch up on the chat. I need, would it be okay to pick a bunch of common pill bugs from my yard to try and start a colony? Sure, I've done it. My Stylistica convexus is exactly that. My colony started that way. So, OG Nate, hello. Pet Tree Nat, hello. What would be a good beginner millipede? Ivories. Ivory millipedes are excellent beginner millipedes. Bumblebee millipedes are great too. Yeah, and that, Angela, that's a good point. Sorry, these guys are just kind of sitting here doing nothing, but they are beautiful. You can see the long Isopods on the males there. It's very cool. The endopodites of the Isopods. The last section of the Isopods are called the endopodites. So that's perhaps a slightly more specific term to use. Okay, just a second, guys. I'm going to ban the spammers. I was just putting them in timeout at first, but I can see this is not going to be a thing that is going to go away as easily as I had hoped. So there you go. I will ban when I have to ban. So there we go. Spamming doesn't help people. If you want to say something, go ahead and say it, but don't. There. Okay. There we go. I'm trying to ban them, folks. Sorry about that. And could I just use some dead leaves and soil from my yard? You could. I would just, what I do is I bake them. If you're fairly sure you're not going to have to worry about pesticide residues or whatever. Let's check out Porcellio expansus, one of my newer isopods in the giant Spanish Porcellio group. These are from Jordan. Check these out. Look at how many babies just under this particular leaf here. Or, okay. Okay. Spicy beans. I haven't seen that question yet. Armadillidium perace, if that's how you pronounce it. I've never actually heard it pronounced out loud. I haven't worked with that species. I'm trying to think if Wally's worked with that species or not. Wally's not in the chat right now, I don't think. But did you see up here, there's a tiny little juvenile right there by my thumbnail. There are several batches of babies in here. Pretty excited about that. But these are not all of them. I mean, there's a lot in here. There's a lot of babies, not under that particular piece, but let's see. There's a whole bunch more babies in here. I mean, there's a lot of these guys. So I think, yeah, hopefully, I'm just going to ban the spammer. And we'll see what we get. I've been banning the spammer. So unless the spammer is making new accounts or there are a group of them who decided to attack the channel, then I think we're going to be okay now. Oh, look, there's a couple more. They're all over the place. And I love these. This species is so cool. Like I told Jordan, when I first saw this species years ago, before it came to the US, I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I really want that species. And eventually got it. So that's cool. Sorry, the lid is totally not accurate anymore. But that's the one I had available when I was setting that up, so I didn't want to not use it. I want to show you a couple other things. So, okay, so Wally does have them. So that would be a person to ask, Spicy Beans. Ask Wally. He could probably help you out, because I haven't kept that species. Let's see. I don't have any wolf spiders, Lucy, the labradoodle. I only have a couple of Phidippus jumping spiders. I've got a Regius, and I've got a Audax. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. Okay, just one second. I have to walk across the room, but here we go. Okay. Okay. Here we go. So you may remember I collected some stag beetles. They're called cottonwood stag beetles. They're native to my state, and I caught them about an hour away from my house. The adults, unfortunately, do not have a long lifespan. They usually emerge from the ground around July. I collected this on the 4th of July, actually. And then they kind of pass away. They're not around for that long after they mate. But I collected 2 males and 2 females. I wanted to show you what's going on here. This is in the female's enclosure. Got a fairly large larva right there. We've got another one right there. And I saw several others. There's another larva that's a small one right there. And I think there are a couple in the bottom. I don't want to disturb the substrate too much. But I'm getting larvae. And there are springtails in there, of course, doing their thing as well. But yeah, I'm pretty excited that we're getting some beetle larvae. It's a species I've never bred before. So I'm kind of excited about it. It's pretty neat. Okay. Now, I have a big surprise too coming up. But I'm going to, let's see. I want to show you a couple more things while I'm at it. Those are, I think I showed you all my giant Spanish Porcellio. Sorry, I went away from the microphone. I think I've shown you all my giant Spanish Porcellio, but I've got a lot of other Isopods, of course, and this one, yeah. Yes, I need to get a moderator again. I mean, I need more moderators in here. So if I'm going to have some, hopefully you don't mind if I nominate some of you for moderators, and you can ban people if they start being dumb, please. Okay. Okay. So there we go. So Joshua Savala's in the house. Nice. Excellent to see you here. Dark Fry setting up Armadillidium officinalis. You've already got Armadillidium depressum. They're the cleanup clue in the snail tank. If they're in a tank alone, you just make sure that they get, all the leaf litter, all the decaying wood, and all the food, and a good moisture gradient, and some decent ventilation, and they'll be okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I've got a couple of moderators you can, and I'm not playing favorites or anything. I'm just clicking on what I see. So if you can take care of those spammers there, then I would be happy for you to do that. And there we go. If I missed you and you really want to be a moderator, just let me know again. But these are Armadillidium vulgare punta cana. They're an interesting color variety. They used to be known as Armadillidium sordidum, but they found out they are actually not. And the cool thing is, they're pretty variable. I mean, you can see slight variations in these, but once in a while you get one that's the wild type, which I really like. The fact that they've got, some coloration. You see some that are darker, some that are lighter. Pretty cool variety. And there you go. So, oh, thank you, Acadia Territory. Do I cohabitat anything? Yes, I do. I do. I cohabitate things, not isopods really, except if I put some together in a cleanup crew setup and I want to see who's going to win, so to speak. But I do cohabitate things like, I guess just like mostly cleanup crews. Like I keep Armadillidium Klugai Montenegro in with my garter snakes, and they actually work really well. They're working well as a cleanup crew, and they really take care of the snake sheds just fine, and they're beautiful. And it's warm in there, on the warm side, so that the isopods have a real nice humidity gradient and a real nice temperature gradient. So they seem to enjoy that. And They do really well. I'm excited. I've been wanting to try it for a while. So let's see. Well, you can, even if you don't make it to every stream, I'm okay with you being a moderator if you want to. Because not everybody makes it to every stream. Even some of my moderators don't. Let's just take a look at these guys. See, these are doing pretty well. These are, of course, the clowns I was just talking about. One of the most colorful isopod species ever. And love these guys. Yeah. So Theropod Hunter, you're using Daphne as a cleanup crew in what? Yeah, I love the clowns, and there are actually a couple of different types of clowns. The species is Armadillidium klugi, but there's Armadillidium klugi Montenegro, and there's Armadillidium klugi pudding, which is kind of a different. It has less red in it. It's kind of like an aneurystic version or something, and then there's Armadillidium dubrovnik and Armadillidium dubrovnik red phase, which is fantastic. It's almost like a strawberry in its color because it's almost entirely red with white spots, which is pretty cool. So they're a fantastic species. And thank you for getting those spammers out, folks. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. So really, it makes my life easier, and I really appreciate all your efforts. And Gary the Snail, that could be right. Okay, Tristan, great question. On really smooth, dry plastic or plexiglass, they generally cannot climb. However, they can climb on silicone. So in an aquarium with silicone in the corners, they can climb on that. Some species can climb up just slightly moist glass or plastic, so you get a little thin mist of liquid on there and they can climb up it. And if it gets a little, see, this has a little dirt. I don't know if you can see it very well in the video, but there's a little dirt there, and some species can climb up that really well. Also, if it gets really scratchy, if you get a lot of scratches on your plastic or your glass, they can climb those too. So spicy beans, you should get some. Everybody should get these, but I'll tell you what, they were one of the hardest ones for me to dial in. I had the hardest time at the first trying to figure out temperature and humidity and everything. So a couple things to point out. One is they do like it a little warm, but don't let them dry out completely in the enclosure. You can see I've got a really nice hydration station of moss here. This always stays damp. They really like this piece of wood. They don't like this piece as much. We're on the dry side. But they hate to be misted. Do not mist the enclosure. Don't make sure the whole enclosure never gets wet. You want to have a dry side, really nice dry side, and then you want to have a hydration station with a piece of cork bark next to it. You can, instead of misting this, just pour water on the sides and let it dribble down into the moss and keep it moist. That's the way to do it, and that ought to help. Yeah, so Angela, when your Porcellio pruinosus climbed up the side, it could be that there was a little bit of dirt there or a little bit more water on the sides, something like that. That could be what's going on. And Acadia territory, if you already have kept zebras and granulatum and powder oranges and so on, I think you could do clowns just fine. Just follow what I was just talking about, and that should help. And yeah, and sometimes, just to stress this dirt may or may not be visible. The isopods can still climb it. And another thing that sometimes happens is you close the lid and you don't notice you have a leaf stem sticking up like that when you close it. And if you do that, you're allowing a gap, and you're also giving them a ladder. So be very careful not to do that. That'll sometimes do it. Okay, let's see. Aloha, HC Aqua. Okay, guys. Pile up the remains of the leaves, Jordan. I've never seen that. And welcome to the stream, by the way. And do you mind, Jordan? You can function as a moderator if you'd like to. I wouldn't mind if you want to be one. Okay. Up next up for me. Oh, Critters and More. You're going to get clowns soon. Huh. Well, Gemma, I'm not sure what went on either. That's a little weird. But buying them can be a way to take care of it sometimes. There can be a lot of things going on. I mean, there are parasites that can affect isopods. It could have been a pesticide, something like that. You know what? I have 3 things I want to do. I need to quit soon. And I apologize to those on Patreon who had questions, and I was going to answer them soon. It just went right out of my mind. But I am answering them right after the 30-minute, right around 31 minutes. So if anybody can remember that and put that in the comments, that 31 minutes I'm going to start answering some Patreon questions. Okay. One question. This is from Eileen O. And Eileen O is asking if she wants to know if you would recommend using mosquito bit water dilution in a bioactive enclosure. Here, this is boring to watch this white surface, so let's look at our Porcellio ornatus for a minute. Would you recommend using mosquito bit water dilution in a bioactive enclosure with garter snakes? In other words, does the mosquito bits hurt snakes at all? So I've done a little research on this, and of course, Bacillus thuringiensis mosquito bits, that's the same thing. Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, hopefully am I pronouncing that right. It's a bacterium that is sold as mosquito bits. It kills, it's targeting 3 things: fruit flies, fungus gnats. Hopefully I'm saying this right. Is it fruit flies, fungus gnats, and black flies? I think those are the 3 that it really targets. And it's supposed to be safe for everything else. It's not considered to have any toxicity for humans. And I looked up a study, and there was a study done by, it was called The Effect of Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis and methoprene on Non-Target Macroinvertebrates in Minnesota Wetlands. Okay, thank you, Frank the Tank, for catching that so fast. And it said that they studied the 2 different insecticides, one being the BT, which is, it's an organic bacterial insecticide, and one was a chemical one. And they tested in these wetland areas and found that the BT had a bit of a negative effect over a couple of years with some insects, but it didn't seem to hurt any of the non-target macroinvertebrates. So that's good news. I don't know if we can generalize that to garter snakes. My general feeling is, whoa, they're really fighting over that pellet of food in there, aren't they? I should put some more in. My general feeling is that it probably would be okay for garter snakes. If you're going to put it in, I would not like spray it in or something. I would pour it in a place where the garter snakes are not hanging out at the moment. I'm just going to sprinkle some more fish food in there because they're all hungry. But I'm not sure that I would feel entirely comfortable with it, just because it hasn't been tested thoroughly with garter snakes. I know that they've done tests with isopods, and they found when they pour the liquid directly on isopods, it sometimes killed them. But that's probably unrelated to the actual bacterium. It's related to something else, like one of the carriers in the liquid or whatever they were using. So I would say, it's not without some risk. I don't think it's extremely risky, but I would worry about it a little bit. I might not do it. I think if you can get enough ventilation, enough isopods and springtails in with your garter snakes bioactive enclosure, you probably don't need to worry about fungus gnats too much. I had a little bit of a bloom of fungus gnats at the beginning when I set mine up, but as soon as the isopods kind of caught up, it wasn't an issue. So there you go. Lovely question. I really appreciate it. So hopefully that helps, Eileen. The next question that I had, this is from an admirer of arthropods, says, do you know which isopods are protein hungry? I think that was the term you used in your substrate changing video. Well, all isopods do go after protein to some extent, but some of the more protein hungry species that I know of, the 2 that hit, right really fast are Porcellio laevis, especially dairy cows and milkbacks, things like that, and Porcellio ornatus, the one that we're looking at here. So I think that is kind of answers the question. I would say other species like other Porcellio tend to be more protein hungry than some others, than a lot of the other Armadillidium or things like that. But certain Armadillidium like protein a lot. Porcellio expansus seems to like fish food a lot for the protein. But things like Porcellio hoffmannseggi and Porcellio magnificus seem to be a little less protein hungry. Okay, so, and then Eileen says, did I understand you correctly, or not Eileen, admirer of arthropods says, did I understand you correctly to mean that certain isopods are a danger to the early instars of other animals? Possibly. They don't, it's not recommended to keep them with beetle larvae, beetle pupae. There is some risk when you keep them with millipedes that are molting. In general, they don't harm most things that are living and whole, intact, healthy. But if they get damaged, they can have problems. Like if you have a millipede that gets injured while it's molting, then all bets are off, and the isopods could eat it. Things like that. And the hungrier they get, the higher they are in numbers. If they're overcrowded and very hungry, the rules start to change, and they get more protein hungry in general. Any type of isopod will do that. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, I think dairy cows in a snail enclosure, I've heard that they can breed pretty crazily, and they just breed pretty crazily anyway. So hopefully that helps. Protein hungry, definitely Porcellio natus, definitely Porcellio laevis, and a lot of the Porcellio and any species that gets overcrowded. I mean, Silisticus convexus is fairly protein hungry, considering that it's not a Porcellio, it's another genus. It still kind of does that. And Angela, I often do keep the substrate if I can for a while to make sure there aren't any babies in there. And it just depends on practicality, but I do try to do that. And isopods and springtails, I don't see them competing really. They seem to benefit, if anything, because the springtails seem to eat the leftovers of the isopods. And I think, honestly, that they don't really compete so much as they're just both beneficial. And Mickey M, I was reading in Oren's book, and I think they will eat them if they're exposed. If they're, at least this is what he was saying. If in his book Isopod Zoology, he says if the eggs are not enclosed in the capsules, if the capsules are damaged at all, and I assume this is true with species that lay naked eggs, that they will eat them. So that makes sense. Hey, Cheyenne Geckos, welcome. Which Cubaris is the best cleanup crew? Good question. I've only kept a couple of species, so I'm not sure. But that's a good question. I think Cubaris marina is one of the more used species, but that's probably because it's a cheaper species of Cubaris. I want to show you guys something, speaking of Cubaris. I've got to go in just a minute. But I want to show you something. I'm pretty excited about it. Okay, I'm going to close my Porcellio natus enclosure first. Sorry, poor timing on my part, because I don't want to drop anything into the Porcellio natus enclosure, which is like dropping it into a shark tank, so to speak. Now, let's see what we can see in here. You can see a little ducky. There's another little ducky, right? And that's cool, just by itself, of course. But what I want to show you is that. Do you see what's going on there? That's a baby ducky right there all rolled up. I've got babies in here. I've got several babies in here of the duckies. I'm not sure exactly how many, but yesterday I was just poking around and I found rubber ducky babies. The first ones that I have had in all the time that I've kept rubber duckies. I've got, like I said, maybe half a dozen babies in here, and I'm really, really, really excited about it, so I just wanted to share. Finally, I've had my Cubaris red tigers bred for me pretty fast, but I hadn't had much luck with the duckies until just recently, and now I've got baby duckies. So very cool. All right. So that, I want to make sure I didn't accidentally put any baby duckies in there. That would not do. All right. So make sure that's completely shut up and closed. And there we go. All right, everyone. I really appreciate the everybody being moderators and getting rid of our spammers. And I hope everybody's enjoyed the stream. I've got to head out, but I really appreciate everything. And we will see you on Friday.